No, it's okay. Alaikum salam. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. I think we spoke about Abu Mahdura, right? Being the third muezzin of the Prophet ﷺ. So we said that there are three muezzins for the Prophet ﷺ, right? We said Abu Mahdura was the third one. And we talked about how repeating in the adhan is the sunnah and how he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam allowed it. Did we talk about hayya ala salah? Hayya ala salah, you know, where basically it's calling people to salah and calling people to prayer. I think that was the last thing we discussed.
Yeah, we discussed about the numbers.
We talked about the numbers, right?
17.
Yeah. Okay, خلاص. قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى حدثنا ابن نمير قال حدثنا أبي قال حدثنا عبيد الله النافع عن ابن عمر قال كان للرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم مؤذنان بلال وابن أم مكتوم الأعمى. قال وحدثنا ابن نمير قال حدثنا أبي قال حدثنا عبيد الله قال حدثنا القاسم ابن محمد عن عائشة مثله. So over here you have two narrations talking about the two main mu'adhins of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I think Abu Mahdura came later. I don't remember when he was appointed as the Imam. I should probably look into that. Yeah, I'll have to look into it. But I think he started making adhan later in Medina. But the initial muezzins of the Prophet ﷺ were Bilal and Ibn Maktoum. What's interesting, and I think, did we speak about the hadith of Imam Maktoum, where he asked about the Prophet ﷺ and making obligatory prayer? So there's a hadith in Tirmidhi where Ibn Maktoum, he asked the Prophet ﷺ, he said, do I need to go to the masjid to pray? And the Prophet ﷺ initially he said to him no. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he stopped and he said to him, Atasma nida. He said, do you hear the adhan?
We didn't talk about it, but
okay.
I'm not going to.
Yeah. So he said, Atasma nida, like, do you hear the adhan? And he, radiallahu anh, he said, yes, I do. So the Prophet ﷺ said, then you have to go. So those are one of two hadith. There are two hadith that basically Imam al-Tirmidhi, he kind of ends that section with. This hadith of Ibn Maktoum and the hadith of, I think Ibn Abbas narrates it, where the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed, he combined and he shortened without, and there was no, there was no threat, and it wasn't raining. So these two hadith, Imam al-Tirmidhi, he says about laysa alayhi al-amal, that there is no consistent acting upon these hadith, and part of the reason is we don't know why. But if we know Ibn Maktoum to be one of the muezzins of the Prophet ﷺ, it's very possible that because he's the one who is supposed to be making the adhan, then it makes sense then why the Prophet ﷺ would tell him. It's okay, well, this is basically your job. I've given you this job, and this is something that is necessary and that's needed to be done. Because it's known that Ibn Maktoum, when it came to the two adhans of Fajr, that Bilal radiallahu anh, he would make the first one, and Ibn Maktoum would make the second one. And even though Ibn Maktoum, he was blind, you would have other companions, they would be coming to the masjid, and they would tell him, they would say, yeah, Ibn Maktoum, Fajr is coming in, make the adhan. Because obviously, he couldn't see and he couldn't tell. But these were the two people that were appointed directly by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make the adhan in Medina, in Masjid Nabawi specifically. Yeah.
Adhan not just for the Fajr.
Wallahu alam, but I would imagine because here you have Ibn Umar mentions that the Prophet ﷺ appointed two muezzins, I would assume that would be for the other prayers as well. But the ones I know famously is that he was famous for the Fajr adhan, the second Fajr adhan, not the first one. So there are two adhans for Fajr. One was basically to wake everybody up and to prepare for the Fajr, and the second one would be the beginning of the Fajr time. So over here, I believe Imam Muslim, he mentions these hadith because first he talks about how to make adhan, and then rahimahullah, he talks about having a mu'adhin. This doesn't mean that a masjid should be limited to 2 mu'adhins, obviously, but it shows us that there's nothing wrong with appointing people, like very specific people, to make adhan. And I believe part of that is the importance of kind of organizing things. As we see Islam progress from the time of the Prophet ﷺ, like from Mecca late into Medina, what happens is that things become much more organized, right? And you start having a little bit more structure. During the Meccan era, when they used to pray, they weren't always able to get together in Dar al-Arqam. So they had to figure out different ways and different spaces to pray in, even when the prayer was structured. Because basically, when we look at the salat has windows, to pray, but to actually have prayer times where people are coming to pray. Because this idea of making the adhan, why was it necessary? It's like, okay, well, there's no more fear anymore. So they're like, okay, tayyib, what can we do to actually get together and to come together to pray? And the solution that they had come up with was making the adhan, and then the Prophet ﷺ, he taught them how to make adhan, and then he appointed Bilal and Ibn Maktoum to be his mu'adhins. And I think this is very telling, not just for the adhan, but I think when it comes to anything revolving around religious duties, and I think maybe, I know this is a side conversation, and about how to appoint people for different positions, even if they're religious positions. I think there's a lot of discussion around when a person is I call them dawah workers, right? So we have white collar, blue collar, and like dawah workers. Dawah workers are anybody who work in the masjid or work with an Islamic institution. And many times when it comes to discussion around pay, what is the first thing that most people say for these people? So whether this person is a mueddin, whether this person writes, or whether this person leads the salah, or this person gives khutbahs, what is some of the issue that comes around pay for these people?
From them or
from the community? For some of the community, not the entire community.
They're getting their reward from Allah. They shouldn't get paid.
Where they should do it for free, right? Essentially, they're like, they should do it for free. They say, oh, you should do it for Allah's sake. So over here, if we know that these were duties that the Prophet ﷺ actually prescribed and he appointed these individuals for, it's like, all right, this is something to show that there's importance behind this. Because making adhan, what kind of skill set do I need to have? I just have to have a voice that I can project, and a nice voice, right? Like something that's nice to hear. So if it's something that doesn't require like a high skill set, it's still interesting on how he ﷺ, he's like, okay, no, this still requires order. Because at the end of the day, anybody can make adhan, right? Like you can get, I would say, out of all the men in the masjid, the ones who have the capability of making adhan are probably like 80% of them. The ones who have a nice voice amongst them, maybe like 10% of them, right? You know what I mean? So like, I think you still have people who can fulfill the obligation, people who can do it. But
you need discipline as well to know the time.
yeah, there it is. So what is the major way of bringing discipline into an institution or into a position? All right, well, selecting the right person is important, but not just that. It's not just selecting the right person. I can get, if I get the most skilled mu'adhin, right? He has a very powerful voice, he has a very beautiful voice. What is going to bring consistency and continuity to him coming for the 5 prayers to make the adhan? How can I motivate him? Can I tell him Allah will reward you? I can.
Yeah.
All right, there's nothing wrong with that. Is that going to bring the desired consistency?
Depends on the person.
Sure, maybe for some people. And even those some people, so if there is a select subset of people who'll be like, okay, no, I don't want any pay for this. But these people usually, I won't say always, but usually what is their financial situation? They're independent, right? They're financially independent, meaning that they're relying on some outside income, which is why they don't care whether they're being given our money or not in this position. Is that the case of most people? No. So, yeah. So the question is, all right, well, why is adding money to the equation so important? So for the people who say, oh, you should do it for Allah, we can have that conversation. The other conversation is like, okay, in these positions, why is it important to have money? Okay, to keep people motivated.
And also, give them some decency, right?
All right, so this is a very important point. How do we honor? There are different ways to honor people. I can say thanks how many times to you before it's like, okay, hey, listen, thanks isn't paying the bills, right? So I can say thanks to you. I can show appreciation. What are different ways that people show volunteers appreciation? So if you volunteer for the Institute, whether it be cleaning up or setting up, or maybe giving a class, or maybe like doing some training, maybe helping with the website, what are some ways that those people are appreciated?
Well, monetary, obviously, appreciation.
Okay. So,
External recognition, awards.
sure. So awards is one good way. An honorarium is another way, right? So an honorarium is actually a gift, right? It's not. I'm not. If somebody gives 1,000 hours to Al-Hijrah, and I give them a $100 gift card or a $500 gift card, does that compensate them for the time that they did? Right? It's not, right? There's no clear compensation there. But the gift card is it's a gift, right? It's a gift like, thank you for doing this, and we want to gift you with this. We want to give you this award. We want to give you this appreciation. Like, we want to show these things, and that's a good way of keeping volunteers motivated. But there's a difference between a volunteer who gives maybe 10 to 12 hours a week and asking someone to volunteer 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week. Can I get away with a gift card? And right? I can't. So while these things are good, and I think they're necessary, right? Everybody needs to be honored. Everybody needs to be honored, and everybody needs to be respected. And an easy way of doing that is by paying. Because paying brings honor and respect. Not just that, it creates a sense of accountability. Right? Because the moment I'm getting paid, that means now I have to answer to someone. If I don't show up, what's going to happen? That can affect my pay. Can there be excuses? Of course, like, people get sick, emergencies happen, there's no doubt about that. But in general, like, by creating that accountability structure and by paying someone, what one of the most important things that happens is that now an individual has that sense, an individual has that sense of accountability. And not just that, you're removing fitna. Because if someone comes and they gives 10 hours, usually what happens in any institution, right? So if I volunteer 10 hours and I'm someone who works for the institution and I need a volunteer, who's the first person I'm going to look toward? Right, the person who volunteers. So now this person, 10 hours, I'm like, oh yeah, mashallah, Ahmed, he really volunteers and he's really helpful. So what do? Very naturally, I'm going to be inclined toward Ahmed. So instead of 10 hours, now I'm asking for 12. Oh, I need something else done. Very naturally, what happens? I incline toward Ahmed. And eventually, what happens with Ahmed? Is he willing to keep adding those hours? No. So what happens? In general, I don't know if you guys have experienced this enough. So when they feel overwhelmed, what happens to a volunteer? Okay, they lose motivation, for sure. But very practically, what happens? They stop volunteering, right? It's not that, okay, so if you have Ahmed and it's like, okay, now it's 12 and then it's 15 hours, now I'm getting 20 hours, right? And he's starting to feel really overwhelmed. Is it common for a volunteer to be like, hey, listen, I need to scale back my volunteer hours? It's not common. It's actually very uncommon. Yeah, no, it's actually very uncommon, right? Like, it's not common for a volunteer to actually do that. What the easiest thing for a volunteer to do is just stop showing up, right? They'll just stop coming. So what is an easier thing to do, right? Number one, as an administrator, I should always realize, and I should keep in mind, like, okay, this person already gives so many hours. I should do what? I should ask someone else, right? I should find other volunteers. I should empower more people. I can't just keep squeezing the same person. Like, as a volunteer, what should I realize? What should I do if I keep getting asked for things? I shouldn't be shy to do what?
To set boundaries.
To set boundaries, right? That's really important. Because what happens is, like, the shaitan, what does he want? He wants us to stop volunteering. Does that make sense? Like, he wants us to stop. So what'll happen is, like, I feel like I'm doing good, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I could do a little bit more good. Oh yeah. Why wouldn't I be able to do more good, right? Like, and I keep doing these things, and all of a sudden I find myself in a place where it's like, I'm scared to go to the masjid, right? Or I'm scared to go to the school, or I'm scared to go to the janazah center, wherever it is. And the moment I start feeling that fear, that means that I didn't set my boundaries well. So the moment I feel that fear, what should I do? Stop going, right? No. What do I do? Most people stop going, right? Like, I'm telling you.
Communicating.
I need to communicate it. Because at the end of the day, there's a general accountability that's there. Can you fire a volunteer? You can, right? It just ends up being really bad.
I mean, you can stop asking them.
Yeah. Well, you fire them, meaning, so for example, if I have somebody who mops the lecture hall every week. The first week they come, they like mop like half of it. The second week they come, like it's not consistent, like it's clean here and it's not clean there. The third week it's like it didn't get mopped at all. What do I do at that point? So I can be like, okay, hey, listen, I think we always need to talk to people, right? And be like, hey, listen, what's going on? I don't think this is being done. And the only time it gets done is like if I'm standing over their head. At that point, do I want that person there? I think understanding and treating volunteerism in a higher professional way actually creates better and more accountability and transparency. It's like, hey, listen, if you can't do it, that's fine. I'll have to find someone else though. And usually, like when it comes to volunteerism, it's like, oh, you should take whatever I'm giving you, right? Like there's a little bit of entitlement with volunteerism, and I think on both ends, like from the administrator and from the volunteer, where it's like, okay, so for example, if I'm like, hey, listen, can you take out the trash? And you're like, sure, take it out. I have no problem. And no, don't tie the bag like that. Okay, no, don't take it out from there. Okay, no, you need to wait a little bit for. Okay, listen, before you go outside, I need you to spin 3 times. Like eventually, what's going to happen? You're gonna be like, bro, do it yourself. Like you're gonna be like, yo, do it yourself. I'm not a worker, right? Like I'm here giving my time, and I'm fulfilling the task, but I'm fulfilling the task in the way that I see reasonable, and it's being fulfilled, right? It's being done. It's not like the case of like, hey, listen, I need you to mop this, and like you mop 3/4 of it, or you like zigzag mop it, and you're like, oh, I'm doing it the way, you know what I mean? Like I'm doing it the way that I should. It's like, no, that's not how it should be done. So I think there requires like a lot of nuance and a lot of conversation and a lot of transparency when it comes to that, because the more professional we treat each other, the easier that is. And some people might be like, oh, that's very cold, right? Like if you try to be like very professional. You guys ever got a chance to volunteer in the hospital before? No? You guys know what they do with volunteers? They have applications. Yeah. Like in hospitals, you actually have applications. And if you miss like 3 days, like without excuse, like they remove you from being a volunteer. And volunteers have so much, like hospitals have some of the most dedicated volunteers. It's actually very, very professional. So I think there has to be a level of professionality when it comes to dealing with that. And that's volunteerism. Like when it comes to like workers, what is a reasonable, I guess maybe this is a good conversation around, there are a lot of my fellow imams, they'll complain about, oh, imams aren't paid enough. They're not paid enough. What do you guys think? What do you guys feel about that? What do you guys feel about that complaint?
I think it should be fair pay for them.
Sure. How do we determine, like how is pay determined in general? So if you have an entire class of people and all of those people are complaining that they're not paid enough, is there a larger problem?
If they're on the same page,
I'm sorry?
if they're on the same page, there must be a problem.
There has to be a problem. So like if you have this entire group of people and all of them are in the same job, maybe their roles are a little bit different, right? Because masjids, I don't think they're very good at defining what that role is. And they get upset. They're all upset. They're like, we're not getting paid enough. What is happening? What's going on? So all of the boards of the masajid are oppressors? Does that make sense? Right, because the boards determine the pay. And if all of the masajid are oppressive, all of the masajid, they are built to hurt the imam.
I mean, no, but also you can argue maybe all the boards don't have enough resources.
Okay.
Right, so it may be true that they're not getting
Sure.
paid enough, but not because they're,
Well,
they have high expectations, but rather because.
I'll push back. Al-Hijrah does like yearly fundraisers for expansion and for different projects and different things. Like I think our yearly budget is like 4 or 5 million, something like that. And that's like operations, like everything. How come I'm not paid $1 million?
Because there are other expenses, obviously.
No, but money's not, right? I'm saying in this scenario, right? Okay, well, the money is there. The money is there. Why isn't a fourth of it coming to me? Why can I not go to the board and be like, I deserve $1 million? Imams are underpaid. I can ask, right?
Yeah, but this pay is determined based on,
Uh-oh.
the average of
Uh-oh.
people in the same role.
Uh-oh,
typically.
we're having a more nuanced conversation. This is a little dangerous. Okay, so why aren't imams paid? Because remember, in this situation, in this scenario, the money isn't the problem, but I'm not getting paid $1 million. I mean, alhamdulillah, I think Dar Hijrah and maybe a few other masajid are exceptional, and that they do take care of us. But I will say, why is that the case? So if there are budget restrictions, the question then comes, all right, if there are budget restrictions, or if I walk into a masjid and they're like, okay, hey, starting salary is $40,000, or starting salary is $50,000. Then what? And I go to another masjid. They're like 52. I go to another masjid. They're like 47. And I'm starting to see a pattern now. What does that say about the position? All right, it's not valued. Okay, so this is something I think we can think about and we can engage. And we can come back to the muezzins too. So why isn't that position valued? So CEOs, how much do they make? Like 7-figure salaries, right? They'll make like $1 million or sometimes close to it. Why are they paid so much? How come they're paid so much and imams aren't paid that much? I mean, I'm sure there's a fat line.
I mean, I don't know. The first question is like, is that a profession? Being a mom, is that a profession?
It is. It's a profession. It is a profession. So the question is who isn't treating it like a profession?
Who isn't?
Yeah.
The Muslims.
I would argue the imams.
Yeah.
Like some of the imams, they're not professional at all. And not just that. I would like, so basically what I'm trying to present is positions are compensated based on the valuation of the services provided. Does that make sense? The CEO, why is he being paid high six-figure salaries? Because he's bringing significantly more money to the company, right? Like, are companies stupid that they're going to pay this guy like $1 million a year? For example, they say, okay, hey, listen, I'm going to pay you $1 million a year. Why are they paying you $1 million a year? Because they're generous? Right? Generosity clearly is not one of their characteristics. They're paying it because they're like, no, this guy can bring in 10 times that revenue. Yes? So an imam. What services is he providing that the community is valuing? Because there's only so many ways we as humans can actually value things. So for example, this phone, how tall it is and how wide it is, what would I use to measure that? Like inches or centimeters, right? Weighing it, what would I use to weigh it? I would use like ounces or grams, right? Yes? Maybe even the durability, right? They have hardness tests. How do I gauge its value? What do I use? What measurement do I use to gauge its value? This one probably is going to hurt the most. I use money, right? So the services that this imam is providing, how do I value them? With a thank you? The money. And most community, because even the masajid, it's made up of community, and the community is buying $1 million buildings, right? It's not strange. Would you guys agree? Like, it's not strange for a community to have $1 million, $2 million, $7 million projects, and the imam is still making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. Why? Because the community saw something in the building, but they didn't. Are you guys following what I'm saying? Yeah. But they're not seeing the same thing in the imam. Why?
I mean, I hear your point.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's not just the imam's fault. I think the
100%.
community also does not appreciate, does not value.
Sure.
That's what we talked about,
Yeah.
which is the expectation that this is for free and it's for Allah, etc.
So I'm saying there's an added, right? I think there's an added layer which we had started the conversation with. Is like there's very much an expectation that such services should be what? Free, right? That expectation is there. That there's a number of these services that should be free. So whose job is it to create value in those services? How do I convince you that what I'm providing is valuable? As an imam, myself, right? I'm speaking from the position. How do I convince you I'm providing value? What do I do? It is, but I want us to treat it like any other profession right now, for the time being. We said it's a profession. Okay, let's treat it like a profession. How can the imam provide? How can the imam show and prove his value?
By showing up.
Okay, good. And I remember I had this conversation with someone. I was visiting a masjid. They asked me to come and give a talk, and they were like, "Oh yeah, like we normally don't pay like speakers and stuff to come." And I was like, "The only reason I came is because I'm friends with him. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I'm just letting you know right now." And there was another guy who was like, "Oh, yeah, we don't pay our khatibs." And I was like, "Yeah, I would never give Jummah there," right? Like. And it's like, they were just like, well, how can you say that? I was like, because I'm providing a service that you can't fulfill. I said, if I'm doing something you can't do, what do you do? If I don't know how to plumb, if my house is leaking, who am I going to call? I'm going to call a plumber. If I could do it myself, what would I do? I would do it. I would fix it. I would know exactly how to turn the water off. I know which pipes to change out, but, right? Like, if I knew how to lead prayer, why would I hire someone to lead? And the thing is, like, I might know how to lead it, but I don't have the time, I don't have the availability to fulfill all of this requirement. Again, I think there can be an awakening, and I know I'm putting a lot of onus on the imams. Like, not to say the communities, like, are there thankless elements? I won't say thankless, right? Are there thankless elements of the community? Yes, there are. They exist. But if I didn't spend time actually convincing them that what I'm providing has value, why would they give me more? They wouldn't do it. But if I walk into a community, because I think a lot of it has to do with negotiation too. Yeah. And when a person is, I would say, like emotionally blackmailed into being like, oh, you should do this for Allah and you should do it for this. It's like, no. I said, number one, if you gave me $0 or you gave me $1 million, is that going to dictate my sincerity? Does that make sense? Yeah. How can you dictate my sincerity? Or like, listen, you could give me $0 and I might still do it out of riyah. Yes? You could give me no money and I might still do it showing off. You could give me $1 million and I could do it completely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and maybe I take that money and I use it in whatever way I want. But at the end of the day, I, as a person who's hiring someone, I'm giving money because I want to make sure that the person who's coming feels valued. Why is it like certain professions, so like a waiter, why do waiters provide good service? Because they get a tip. Do they know how much that tip is going to be? Right? Usually they don't. And usually such people, if they consistently provide good service, usually they'll consistently get better tips. We valued their service, right? We valued their time. Are there people who just don't tip? Yeah, there are, right? Like I said, remember I said there's always going to be a section of the community that is thankless for certain things? Yeah, 100%. Those people will exist, but I don't need to convince them. I need to convince the community at large. And the thing is, it's like, what is the easy way of doing that? The easy way of doing that is providing quality services. Right? If I'm not showing up, if I'm not addressing community needs, right? If I just keep asking, if I just keep complaining, and this, I've actually experienced and seen this in some masajid, where all the imams do is complain. Who likes a whiner? Nobody. But if you have somebody who's inspirational, somebody who's challenging you, somebody who's pushing you, somebody who's providing that service, somebody who you feel is like, man, this person is really opening my heart and my mind in a way that I haven't experienced before, how much easier is it for me to go to the donation box because I'm happy? Versus me, it's like, and if you don't want to go to hell, it's important. Like, fear works, right? You know, don't get it twisted. Fear works. Is it going to work every time? No, right? I think it's easier for all of us to give when we feel driven by our hearts to give, right? Not because we're scared of something, but because we're actually inclined and we're pushed towards something. And when the ask does come, right? So if I'm coming into a space, it's like, man, I love the space, I love the environment, I love the conversation, I love all these things. When it comes time for the ask to be like, okay, hey, listen, guys, we're building this, or we need to improve this service, or we need to offer this, immediately what happens? It's like, yeah, absolutely, man. Like, this is amazing. I didn't even know this was being done or this was being offered. So how we build trust, because even with the Prophet ﷺ, anytime he asked for money, anytime, what happened? Companions would, they would compete, right? They would throw money at him, so I said. Like, Rasul, how much do you want? Just give me, yeah, right. Just give me a number. Just give me a number. Yes, done, got it. He would go amongst the women. He'd be like, hey, listen, we need money. What would they start doing? They're taking off jewelry. They're like, just take it. And Bilal, he's just there, just people just throwing their jewelry. Again, you show value, people will appreciate the value. If I demand value, is it appreciated? It's not. You should pay me this much, and you should do this much, and you should do it. It's like, bro, you keep telling me what I should do. Like, okay, like who is the community servant here? Like, am I here to serve you, or are you here to serve me? So I think a lot of that has to do. If we don't show that we provide value, it's very difficult for people to pay into that value. But if someone was like, they saw an imam that was, you know, that they're providing all the services that the community has agreed on that they're looking for, when it comes time to talk about salary, they're like, yeah, absolutely, he 100% deserves that. Right? It's very, you know what I mean? But if you have in a community, and I've had this argument with some imams, it's like, okay, if all you're doing is leading prayers, number one, what type of skill set does that require, and what kind of value are you providing for the community? I was like, if I teach someone how to memorize the last juz' of the Quran, and I teach them the rulings about prayer, and I say, hey, listen, I need you available at these times, how much, you know what I mean? Like, how much money is that going to cost? Like, realistically, because even these things require skill sets. So if I have a very base skill set, what separates me from the guy who's at Target or who is at McDonald's? And not to belittle any of those jobs. Like, I think everybody has a role in society, and everybody needs to play roles at every single level. Otherwise, we're not going to get services. We're just not. But when it comes to valuation, because it's not a valuation of me as a person, right? Regardless of how much they pay me, does that dictate what my worth is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, right? And we know that because there are people who have no money and they're very high ranking in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's eyes, and people who have like unlimited money, and these people have very low ranking in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's eyes. And a very clear example of that, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Qarun, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he presents both these. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, very poor, right? Like he was by no means wealthy, and he was the greatest of creation. And then you have people like Qarun, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him like khaza'in, like chests after chest after chest of money. And he's in the hellfire. So, you know what I mean? Like, I think understanding how we value each other, understanding how to compensate one another, I think that's something that's really important. And the other problem is like, okay, if you truly feel that this position isn't worth it, why do you accept the salary? Like as an individual, like why am I okay with this? And why is it that if I know that I'm not okay with it, I have 3 people in line behind me who are? And someone might ask me like, okay, well, why? You know, well, what is the solution? I was like, well, sometimes communities have to learn how to share an imam. That's a tough one. How to share an imam. And how do you do that? It's like, okay, if, well, you know, our community can only afford 30,000, our community can only afford 40,000, okay, our community can only afford 20,000, whatever the case might be. It's like, okay, well then the 3 of you just deserve one imam. The 3 of you working together. Well, how do we manage that? It's like, okay, no, you develop an oversight body. Each of you have contributing members, and then this is how you work with the imam. And then based off that, programming, the prayers, the khutbah, like all of these things can be done. And not just that, he can have a managing role in that too. And if he doesn't know how to manage, okay, give him the skill set, put him through a training. But if we don't have like that professional corporate mindset, things are just going to keep moving like that. And we have to grow. We have to grow as communities. We have to grow as individuals. Even our imams, why should we be happy with where they are? Don't they need to grow too? Yeah. Like and I think there's a level of complacency that's there where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, it's fine. He's doing this. It's like, okay, well, if you want okay, you're going to get okay. If you want excellent, you have to pay for excellence. And not just that, like when we pay for excellence, there's a return that we get on it. What is the difference between a $100 dishwasher and a $2,000 dishwasher, other than the price? What are the things that I'm going to see? Both of them to wash dishes, yes? Okay, but why is this one 2,000? Why is this 100? Quality, right? Durability, how well it cleans, right? Like, and that's real. It's the same thing. Like, well, okay, well, what is the difference in the car? What's the difference between a $1,000 car and a $100,000 car? They're both cars. They both have tires, right? They both have engines. They both get you there. Okay, tell you what is the difference between them? It's like, oh, you know, am I okay with the Ford, or do I want that Ferrari, right? Like, we have to understand, like, okay, hey, what is it that we're looking for, and what kind of quality services that we seek? How do we? If that person doesn't have that quality, okay, how do we bring up that quality in them? So I think having that growth mindset is something that's really important. Assigning people to particular tasks, I think, is really important. And learning how to value people, I think that's important too. But one of the conversations I actually had with our ED once, he was like, I was one of those people who was arguing for, you know, somebody to lead the prayers, be like, okay, you know, there should be a fair salary and blah blah blah. And he brought up the conversation. He's like, well, why do you think it has so much value? And I was just like, dang, you know, I didn't really know how to respond. So I actually sat and I thought, and I was like, okay, you know, how can I bring more value to this position? And I was like, okay, hey, well, what if we work with a local Islamic school and he teaches Quran there? What if he teaches part-time in the evening here, in addition to leading the prayers? Now it's like, okay, you know what? This seems to make more sense, and there's more value in it. For the muezzin, okay, how can we add value to the muezzin? All right, what if he's a custodian? What if he takes care of the masjid, slow, like low maintenance, cleans up, he prepares the meals. All of a sudden it's like, okay, now I'm seeing some value behind this position. So I think it's important for us to be a little bit creative too, in helping understand, like, all right, hey, listen, like how can we actually pull value out of people too? It's not that, oh, okay, well, we need to hire a muezzin. Okay, cool. How much are you willing to pay the muezzin? Right? I think people forget that too. It's like, oh, yeah, it's easy when you're talking about other people's money. It's subhanAllah. When it comes to nonprofits and government, look at how they spend money. They spend, because it's not theirs, right? Like, it's easy spending other people's money, but when it comes to me spending my money, what happens? All of a sudden I'm cheap now. It's like, but yo, you were okay with it here. You were okay with giving this guy a $200,000 salary. When I asked you, it's like, okay, hey, listen, what is your contribution going to be? Oh, I don't think I can contribute. It's like, oh, it's okay. So you don't think it's worth it. You don't think it's worth it for you, but you think it's worth it for the community. That's interesting. So I think kind of understanding on some of these dynamics, how they play out, and again, all these conversations are very important. They're very important to have, because because at the end of the day, everybody deserves respect. Everybody. How do we make sure that we are respecting each other? And it's always going to be a two-sided relationship. I think there's a contribution here, there's a contribution here. All right, what is a good balance? You know, if I'm working, someone might be like, you know, if you say like, oh, well, why does the imam need to convince? But it's a job. When it comes to a job, what is the first thing that I have to do? I have to apply. Can I apply with a blank sheet of paper? What are they going to do with my paper? It's going to go right there, right in the in the garbage. So if I'm taking the time to convince them, should I not take the time to convince others? Right? Because essentially I'm selling myself. And it's the same thing in any position, whether I be in an accounting position. Shoot, if I go to McDonald's, can I just walk into McDonald's? And they're going to be like, okay, well, where have you worked? What is your experience? McDonald's, right? You know, this is very low tier, requires very little, you know, I mean, like, you need zero background to enter that. Or any space that you need zero background in. Like, still, it's like, okay, you have to impress that institution. Am I above impressing others? Like, why? Because I'm so much better than everyone? Right? I think there's a level of humility that's definitely required in all of these spaces. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى: حدثني أبو كريب محمد بن العلاء الحمداني قال حدثنا خالد يعني ابن مخلد عن محمد بن جعفر قال حدثنا هشام عن أبيه عن عائشة قالت كان ابن أم مكتوم يؤذن لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو أعمى. So what's interesting over here, Aisha radiallahu anha, she notes that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam appointed Ibn Maktum even though he was blind. In the next hadith, وحدثنا محمد بن سلمة المرادي قال حدثنا عبد الله بن وهب عن يحيى بن عبد الله وسعيد بن عبد الرحمن عن هشام بهذا الإسناد مثله. So he brings a second chain of narration, basically reinforcing the first, talking about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam appointing this blind muezzin. Why is that important? Why did Aisha radiallahu anha, why did she make note of that? And what does that tell us? So the hadith was that Aisha radiallahu anha, she says that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam appointed Ibn Maktum to make adhan, and Ibn Maktum was blind. Why did she make note of something like that? Why is that important? That's it. That's all she says. And there's a second hadith that has a similar chain and says the same thing. So Imam Muslim, he brings two chains here, two hadith here, to talk about a blind man being appointed to give adhan. Who cares? Why mention it? Why is that important?
I mean, number one, it's an appointment, so this role is not haphazard, right? Like somebody is in charge of doing the adhan consistently.
Okay. So there's actually a job there.
Right.
Okay. What else?
And two, the fact that he's blind does not prevent somebody from.
This is important. That every single one of us will have limitations. Yes? And just because I have a limitation, it might prevent me from some jobs. So over here, would it make sense for the Prophet ﷺ to appoint Ibn Maktum as a scout? It's like, hey, we need you to be the lookout in case there are, you know what I mean? If, in case there's an invading army. Would it make sense to put him there? No. So what did the Prophet ﷺ do? Basically, he ﷺ is telling us here that even if a person has a handicap, what should I do? I need to make space for that person in society. That handicaps should not bar people from working. It should only bar people from what? Specific jobs. And one of the things that I don't want to say it's uniquely American, but I haven't seen it in other spaces and places. They actually have laws where you have individuals who are handicapped working in spaces and places according to their handicap, and they're given less salary because there's somebody's required to oversee them. And I was like, man, that's amazing. There's an argument like, oh, these people should be paid full, but it's like, dude, they're not providing value to the store. The store is only doing it because they want to give these individuals an opportunity and time to contribute to society. And I think it's amazing. Right? I think that's great. Even if these people are receiving subsidized pay or whatever the case might be, it's like, okay, because it's not about the money. It's about the ability for these people to feel like they're part of society and that they're contributing. And handicap shouldn't stop that. And even here, he said, look at, like, subhanAllah, there's just so much wisdom in this. There's so much wisdom in this. Every single one of us is handicapped in some way, shape, or form. Yes? So what do I need to do? It's like, okay, hey, listen, these are things that I probably shouldn't do. Right? I'm not the fastest runner. Should I join the Olympic track team? Like, no, that's a terrible idea. I'm going to fail. I'm going to make the country look bad, right? Like, it's a terrible idea. I'm putting my place and space in wasted efforts. Like, I'm not helping myself. I'm not helping others. It's the same thing here. Like, identifying what my disabilities are and making sure that, okay, hey, listen, this disability, it can disqualify me from some things, but it's not going to disqualify me from everything. And learning what those things are. And as good leaders, what is their job? Their job is to create pathways. Because before, there was no adhan, right? Even when the adhan came, the Prophet ﷺ, what did he do? He turned it into a job. Right? He turned it into a vocation. And this is what we have to do. It's like, okay, there's nothing wrong with being creative to allow others spaces and places to contribute to society. Because if I'm an active member of society and I'm contributing, how does that make me feel? It makes me feel happy, right? Like I'm contributing, I'm doing something. And not just that, for the caretakers, right? So this person who's handicapped, their parents or their family or whatever, if they know their son or daughter is going for 4 hours a day to Goodwill or going 4 hours a day to Target or to Walmart or wherever these places are, what is that giving them? Them time to rest, right? Because now they're not worried about, oh, who's going to oversee and who's going to watch my son or who's going to watch my daughter, right? Because there's a level of oversight that's required, and they know it's like, okay, they're in a safe place, and they can very proud, like even when they're like, yeah, you know, mashallah, like my son, even with his handicap and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, he works 8 hours a week at Target. Right? It's a source of pride that even with these handicaps, like he's still contributing or she's still contributing. So I think setting up these vocations and having these plans and these programs, like it's really good as a society, and not just that, it's really good as institutions, especially Muslim institutions. Like one of the things that we don't do well, especially in educational spaces, is like we don't have room, like whether it be weekend schools or whether it be full-time schools, we don't have any special needs programs. We don't. Why? They're expensive. This requires specialized people. So sometimes you need developmental pediatricians to be on staff. Sometimes you need behavioral therapists to be on staff. Sometimes you need speech therapists. Like each one of these is a salary.
I think we can get the money.
Sure. How much would you like to contribute? So yeah. So the thing is, you'll have people who, the problem is, and the reality is like, okay, well, the state is already taking care of those, they have those support systems in the public schools because they're getting a pool of money from the property taxes. Right. Does that make sense? The Islamic schools, now they're already pushing the upper limit of what they can charge before they start actually turning parents, like before parents are like, yo, I can't afford that.
You can't afford it, it's too much.
So my question to you is like, okay, hey, listen, yeah, we can have special needs programs, but tuition's no longer $800 a month a child, now it's $1,200. Why? Oh, because we have to accommodate these 3 special needs kids in the whole school. Why? Because I have to justify 4 salaries. Right? I need those 4 salaries because these are the 4 specialists that are required for that program to run. Now, for an Islamic school, is that viable and does that make sense? Like I said, sometimes we have to think things logically too. It's like, no, actually, it doesn't make sense. Parents are already complaining about the $800. And not only do you want me to add some, you want me to 50% increase the tuition. Parents are going to go crazy. No, nobody's gonna be like, oh, you know, don't let the special needs kids in because it's gonna sound crazy, but they'll quietly, what are they gonna do? They're just gonna pull their kids out and they'll put them somewhere else. Should it be there? Yeah, sure. Again, remember, it's a value proposition at the end of the day. Okay, if we value it as a community, how much money can we actually put into it? And you'll find even in communities that actually are able to cater to special needs, one of the reasons they're able to do it is because they get subsidies from the state. That's the only way. All of the programs, even in the United States, that cater to special needs and handicaps and stuff like that, like they're losing money. Like they're bleeding money like crazy. Because there's no like you're not getting money back from it. Because if a person has a mental handicap, can I ever get them fully functional, involved in society? I can't. Right? There's always going to be that threshold. And if we understand that threshold exists, the question that we need to ask is like, okay, well, why do you have a society that's pouring their money into something like this and these type of programs? What are they getting out of it? What is the government getting out of it? Yeah. It's just social capital and trust. And I'm saying sometimes like having goodwill and being altruistic and contributing to causes, it's important. Like even for us as Muslims, why do we give money to the masjid? Is there a service or a program that will, like, am I paying for a service or a program at the masjid? Do I have to pay $20 every time I come to pray?
So it's my question too.
Yeah.
Every time I see people volunteer,
Yeah.
I just don't get it. Like, I want to do it too, but
Yeah.
I just never feel it. I always think why they do it.
Because people are motivated by different things. You need to figure out what motivates you. And not just that, it's like there are different ways to volunteer too. I think a lot of times we limit volunteering to like, oh, I'm going to go vacuum in the masjid. Okay, no, man, like the masjid needs help with the website. The masjid needs help with administrative work. The masjid needs help with setup. Sometimes there's construction stuff that needs to get done. Sometimes there's maintenance stuff that needs to get done. Okay, how would you like to contribute? Right, I think that's the first thing to figure out. It's like, man, I couldn't set up tables every week. Okay, cool, that's fine. I have people who volunteer and give classes. Right, because that's their contribution. So I think figuring out what it is that pushes you and motivates you, because at the end of the day, we have to give. We have to. This is one of the few releases that we have in drawing us near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you need to figure out what it is that's going to push and what's going to motivate you.
It's spiritual.
Of course, 100%. Like I said, at the end of the day, like I have people who volunteer who lead the prayers. Like, what are they getting out of it? Nobody's paying them. They're doing it because like they want to draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward them. And not just that, this is fulfilling for them. They have a skill set and they want to offer it. But those same people, like, you don't necessarily see them vacuuming. Why? Because they're like, man, maybe that for them, that's not a good use of their time. And that's fine. It doesn't make them less of a person. It's like, no, I want to put my value and my skill over here, but I can't put it over here. Does that make sense?
Should we as Muslim volunteer?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like I said, figure out what your passion is. Sometimes it could be in a public soup kitchen. Sometimes it could be in a thrift store. Sometimes it could there are different places. It doesn't have to be in the masjid, but there has to be a contribution. That's it. And what that contribution looks like, you have to dictate it and you have to figure it out. But we'll stop here. جزاكم الله خير. الله أعلم وصلى الله على خير خلق نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. جزاكم الله خير.